We were headed for Stockton Island in the Apostles, sailing up the busy North Channel in a light following wind.
It is a gorgeous day, really. It really is.
It definitely was a fine day for many to be out on the water. To our starboard we had our friends Ralph and Sonia on their main ship named Halcyon Days. They had trucked the boat back up from Georgia when they unfortunately had to abandon their Great Loop adventure because of the pandemic. It was one of those downwind days when Vicky and I could have flown our cruising chute, at least for a while, but we stuck to our standard sails. It was just such a pleasant and peaceful sail, and the distance we had to go was so short that there wasn't any reason to rush. There's only about 12 nautical miles from Bayfield to Stockton Island. This time we were going to the mile-wide Julian Bay, which is a great and well-protected anchorage and southwest and west winds. We knew it would be a very popular destination that day, and expected somewhere between 30 and 40 boats to already be at anchor when we would arrive. But we also knew it would not be a problem to find a suitable spot to stay overnight. Julian Bay has a capacity for twice that number of boats and has good holding ground in the sand. The seas were smooth, the winds became steady, and our boat speed went into the upper 6-knot range. We were making great time without making much effort. It really was a beautiful day to be sailing. The only fly in the ointment, so to speak, were the biting black flies that sometimes plague boaters on Lake Superior. A bunch of them found us between Madeline and Stockton Island, but they fortunately weren't with us that long, and our screens kept them out of the cabin. We were now about to do our turn around Prescott Point sandstone ledges and head into the wide and well-protected anchorage at Julian Bay. Although it was late in the afternoon, there was still plenty of anchoring space to choose from. Maybe because it was such a nice day for sailing that no one was in any particular hurry to get in. But gradually, the bay filled up, and there were 50 boats at anchor that night. The next morning, the weather was just as nice as the day before. It was sunny, warm, and with a 10-knot breeze from the west. We had had a restful night on the Hook and greatly enjoyed our breakfast in the cockpit from where we could appreciate the beautiful scenery. We rode easy on the anchor. There was hardly any strain on the chain, but we were, of course, horsing some, meaning lazily swinging from side to side. Some of our Great Lakes Cruising Club friends were anchored close by, Allegra to the front, and Halcyon Days to port.
But we have Larry and Judy Carpenter here, and
yes, we came to visit because we're anchored right there.
they have Allegro and we have Freelance.
Yeah.
Yesterday was a beautiful sail. We just rolled out the jib and we just went straight line almost all the way up here. It was beautiful. One tack all the way here.
And what kind of boat do you have, Judy?
We have a Mason 33.
It's beautiful. And it's got
She's a good
prisms.
girl.
Yeah, it's got prisms that let light down into the cabin.
She's a very good girl. She's a solid boat. We really love her.
And you have autopilot and a wind bang thing at the end, right?
We do. Actually, we tried autopilot yesterday, but it just it didn't do as well as people. So I had the helm all the way up. It was great. It was a lot of fun. I hogged it the whole trip.
We have, in the autopilot we have on this boat, doesn't have a gyro in it because it's an older one, and so it corkscrews a lot when we're going downwind.
Oh,
Yeah,
ours
yeah.
is doing gusts quite a bit, and
Yeah.
every time we'd get a gust, it would round up a little
Yeah.
bit. I found I could.
That's not
No, it's not unusual. It's a below decks autopilot too, but we it was just easier.
Correct.
It was just easier to be at the wheel, and it was fun. Actually, it was really fun.
You guys are really experienced. What are your plans for the summer?
Well, Larry, you can talk.
We're planning to head up to Isle Royale for the first time in many, many, many years. We typically go to Canada, but that's kind of shut out for the year, so we're not going to go up there. So we'll do a little exploring in Isle Royale this year.
Well, we were up there last year and the year,
And the year
before.
before that.
And it was really fun. It's always fun to go to Isle Royale.
And our favorite is Chippewa Harbor, Chippewa Basin. We go in the far back of Chippewa.
I'm sure we'll get there this year. That's one of the places on the list. And then after that, we'll just have to see. We're just going to mosey for about 2-3 weeks.
Vicky and I decided not to use a nice sailing breeze, but instead stay another night in Julian Bay. We took our dinghy ashore to enjoy the beach, which is known for its beauty and its singing sands. If you want to know what singing sand means, I should explain that the sand squeaks when you put your heel in it. It's very unusual. Incidentally, the water was warm enough for Vicky to enjoy, but it was still too cold for me. After a lazy hour or two at the beach, we left in our dinghy to take another look at the rugged shoreline at Presque Isle Point. It's quite a contrast from the sands of Julian Bay. Stockton Island is actually two islands that over time were joined by the development of a large sand spit. You can see it on the chart. Julian Bay is the northeast side of it and Presque Isle Bay the other. Technically, it's a landform called the Tombola. We went down along the eastern side of the point, enjoying the ride and the scenery. As we had expected, we soon came out of the lee of the land. The winds predictably picked up and the waves grew. It was all in good fun. Vicky and I, of course, got splashed with the cold water by some of the choppy seas, and when we finally had enough of it, we just turned around and headed back towards calmer waters. When able, we put the dinghy back up on the plain, speeding across the wide Julian Bay, well away from the other boats, of course. Our spot was at the western end of the anchorage, and we had a ways to go. When we got there, Freelance was riding steadily on the hook, and we were looking forward to later having another pleasant dinner up in the cockpit. The overnight weather forecast looked perfect. It promised diminishing winds from the southwest, so we were in an ideal location and would likely have another peaceful night in the anchorage. The weather is supposed to change today to go in the northeast, so we have to move on. We don't quite know where we're going to go right now, but maybe we'll go just around to the other side to Presque Isle Bay. We'll see how it looks, but we're already starting to get some swells out of the northeast, which is an indication that the weather will change, and soon. So it's time to get the anchor up and get out of here. We were ready to go. We always rig for departure the evening before, just in case of unexpected weather changes during the night. Vicky was coming on deck but wasn't happy. The pesky biting black flies were back. There's a lot of flies here today for sure. Okay. I'm shooing them away. Shooing them.
They're black flies, you know.
Yeah, I know. I got it. We got the fenders out, just in case, and got out of Julian Bay. It can actually be a dangerous place in a northeastern blow. The fetch here is over 200 miles, all the way down from the Canadian North Shore. So the surf in the bay can be significant, and more than one boat has gotten into serious trouble when not leaving in time. There was no point in messing with the sails. It was way too calm to get any use out of them, and the small Park Service harbor at Presque Isle Bay was way too close. By the way, the Presque Isle Dock, also called Anderson Dock, is the only place in the lakeshore that offers four-sided protection. And with the unsettled weather, it was a logical place for us to go, unless we wanted to sail all the way back to our marina on the mainland. Now, the only question was if there was any dock space available. After rounding the point, we could see that the small harbor had plenty of open space. It was a go. The small harbor is very popular, especially on the weekends. But this was on a Monday when our chances of finding space were much, much better. There were just a couple of express cruises on the North Dock, usually referred to as the L, and we didn't have to worry about the ferries and tour boats that usually come in on the South Dock. because of the pandemic, they were not making any stops at any of the islands. We chose to tie up to the South Pier. It was convenient, although it was not as protected a spot than if we had gone to the Elk. We tidied up the boat and shut off the noisy diesel engine. Presque Isle Dock is a pretty place, and there's usually some wildlife around. Vicky amused herself by doing a loon call, but the birds didn't answer back this time. But Stockton Island is far better known for its black bears than its loons and eagles. Later, when we were ashore, we chatted with some campers who had been out hiking in the woods.
And have you seen any bear yet?
We did. Yeah. We saw a bear up in a tree.
No!
5 minutes into our hike yesterday. Yeah, we were hiking and then I heard something.
Did you know what to do?
Well, it was a decent noise away.
Yeah, it was a good distance away, and then we kind of backed up and gave it its distance. And it was actually climbing down the tree, and so it got out of the tree and it just kind of like stood there and
said,
couldn't really see it.
Yep, you don't want to throw any bread into the water or anything to feed them, ever.
No.
There was one time that the bear got into one of the campsites, and this is before they had bear boxes, and this person retreated out into the water with food, and the bear, of course, is going after because it can smell. So the guy was throwing things like breads at the
Really?
and of course that didn't do anything but encourage it to get closer.
Yeah, tell him the Dewey story, Niels.
Oh, he messed with that bear that stuffed up in
The
Ranger
scar
Stage
there?
Scar, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but this used
And
to
Scar kind of ran after him, and Dewey kind of helped some girls get away, and then
that kind of thing. Yeah.
I mean, he was a real nuisance bear, so they finally had to shoot him and stuff him.
Yeah.
Scar.
A little bit about that.
At one time, this had the greatest concentration of black bear per square mile in the United States.
Yeah.
But it isn't that much anymore. They dropped
okay.
a little bit in population.
The rest of the day went quickly. We visited with Bob and Valerie of the Pearson Pilot House Dale Valente and kept tracking the weather change with our apps. It had been calm throughout the day, but the change was definitely coming. A front was predicted to pass through with heavy thunderstorms, strong gusts, and driving rain before the wind would go into the northeast. At 8:30, the skies had darkened and were getting darker by the minute. I walked down to the end of the pier to take a look at the lightning out on the horizon. It was a huge thunderstorm, and it was coming fast. These big storms are fairly common on Superior, so we know what to expect. The most severe sometimes cause damaging flash flooding on the mainland, but this one didn't seem that bad. It was soon time for me to get off the dock and back on board. You really don't want to stand like a lightning rod on an exposed pier in an electrical storm. We were well secured with double dock lines and sitting in a well-protected spot. So the only thing for us to do was to relax and just wait for the storm to pass. It was sunny and calm. The breeze was from the northeast when we woke up. Vicky and I briefly talked about moving on to some anchorage, but the wind was so light and the morning in the little harbor so pleasant that we decided to just stay for another day. By noon, the small harbor was starting to fill up, and a few boats were at anchor out in Presque Isle Bay. Our plans were to go ashore to look around a bit. Stockton Island is part of the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore, which was established back in 1970, and the island has been slowly reverting to nature ever since. There are some nice hiking trails here. The most popular one leads across the heavily wooded Tombola to Julian Bay on the other side. And on this particular day, we did walk it just to take a look. But mostly we just stayed around the harbor, which has a small beach by it. It was just another enjoyable stay at the island. Our friends Bill and Judy stopped by with some ice, and Jean, a highly experienced kayaker, visited with us for a while. At dusk, the colorful sunset was a welcome change from last night's heavy clouds and frequent lighting. We knew it was going to be a peaceful night for us, as well as for the boats anchored out in Prescott Bay. The fog rolled in overnight, and Vicky and I had spent a lot of time sailing through heavy fog, but it's not something we particularly care for. Fog is always cold and clammy, and even with radar and AIS, you never know what else is moving around out there beyond your range of visibility. This fog wasn't too thick, but there wasn't any overwhelming reason for us to leave this small harbor, so we just stayed, reading our books in our warm and cozy cabin and doing a few routine maintenance chores, which is something weather days are always good for. As we expected, the fog changed to rain in the afternoon, and the rain continued well into the evening. It definitely had been the right decision to stay at the dock. In the morning, we decided to squeeze in just one more day at the dock. And there's always something to keep you busy here, be it exploring the Tombola's extensive nature trails, just staying around the heavily wooded harbor area, or visiting with other boaters. One unusual thing that did happen was an on-site national meeting of a group of National Park Service VIPs. They were transported to and from the island by an impressive landing craft. At first glance, it looked like it might be a boat of World War II vintage, but it's actually a completely modern boat. But by staying at Stockton, we knew full well that we were likely missing out on a decent sailing day. Our next planned stop was at the yacht club at the historic Madeline Island, and if we had left, we would surely have had gentle following winds and waves on our sail down the North Channel. When the sun was setting, we lounged on the dock, talking with Gene, an experienced kayaker who had circumnavigated Lake Superior in his tiny craft. Well, you have gone around the whole lake. How does this compare with the other areas?
Well, I love the Apostle Islands. It's the I'll say the Apostle Islands are my favorite part of Lake Superior, hands down.
And why is that?
I love the islands, and for kayaking, it's great. And they're a nice distance apart, right? They're still far, but with the kayak you can still get there. And 2 or 3 miles is not that hard. It seems like a long ways in the kayak, but
well, it's very physical.
It is very physical. But I think it's a kayaker's paradise.
It's a great place to go boating, period. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're on a sailboat, a kayak, and a motorboat. This is just a wonderful place.
It's like everybody tells me, oh, you need to go to the Caribbean, you need to go to the Bahamas, and I'm like, I could just go to the Apostle Islands in July and August. It's the same thing.
The sail covers came off after breakfast, and we were now ready to head down the North Channel. It was a beautiful day to get out on the water, and it was overdue for us to move on. We had been at Stockton Island for 7 days, much longer than we had expected. But one of the nice things about cruising is that you can move when you feel like it, weather permitting, of course. So we set our course towards the southwest. Our next stop was Madeline Island Yacht Club, where we wanted to visit friends. There was a light breeze from the southwest right against us, and while we could have used the breeze for a leisurely light air sail, it would have taken us forever to tack towards our destination. So we decided not to bother with the sails. Our diesel and Hal, our autopilot, were taking us directly to windward, and the only thing we had to do was keeping a sharp lookout. The boat traffic was surprisingly moderate, and our trip was uneventful. A little before 1 o'clock, we closed at Madeline Island's Point de Froid, from where we returned to port, passed by the charming town of La Point, and into the local yacht club, where we had dock reservations for the next couple of days.